Hello, I'm Chris and welcome to the Fragrant Divide. In this video, we'll be exploring the third collection from BeauFort London called Force Majeure, which means major or superior force. Now, BeauFort London is a brand that I've basically written off after learning that a lot of their offerings are centered on smoke and that they are a little on the harder to wear side of things. So I just thought that this brand is probably not for me. A couple of years ago, I ordered some samples and the store included a free sample of Acrasia from their second collection called Revenants. This turned out to be such a pleasant surprise. Acrasia smelled so intoxicating and quite aromatic, but I also wasn't sure what I was smelling for the blend to turn out to be incense, rose, and amber. I also received a little song from Mayo Fuscini with this order, and again was surprised that it has similarities to Acrasia. And I really like them both. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, I learned that BeauFort released Sirenide with Ewan McCall as the perfumer. This completely piqued my interest because he is currently one of my favorite perfumers. Ewan is, of course, the perfumer of Jorum Studios and Sanyoko, two brands that I absolutely enjoy. Sanyoko did break the streak though and recently released a perfume with a different perfumer. With that said, this is probably going to be a biased impression. Make of that what you will. BeauFort London is very much inspired by the sea and the elements, and the Force Majeure collection is no exception. Each perfume was inspired by the myth and lore of different coasts and seascapes of Britain. Everything in this collection is an eau de parfum, priced at $175 for a 50 ml bottle and $63 for a 7.5 ml travel size that doesn't seem to be available in the US. Starting with The Grudge, a 2024 release inspired by the beaches of Scotland. On first sniff, I confidently thought to myself, oh, it's one of those semi-sweet humid vetivers. I thought of that because it immediately reminded me of Every Storm a Serenade from Imaginary authors. Turns out I was wrong. Vetiver is not one of the listed notes. That initial sniff is quickly followed by this salty, airy aquatic musk. And just when you thought it was safe, you will start getting hints of this really funky, really humid, kind of unpleasant, musty smell. It's not pretty. Thankfully, that funkiness dies down and is soon replaced by this mineralic, crumbly rock texture. The dry down eventually hovers around a salty, aquatic, mineralic vibe, and if I let the notes influence me, I would say that a very green smelling tobacco comes out in the dry down, with just a hint of sticky synthetic oud. When I saw ambergris in the notes, it really started connecting to the composition because the Grudge does feel like an amplification of most of the nuances of ambergris. At some point, I finally read the description of the brand. Lo and behold, this is actually an ode to ambergris, or white gold, that occasionally washes up on the beaches of Scotland. The brand describes the character of this perfume as elegant, brutal, raw. Brutal and raw I get, but not so much the elegance. There is something about the Grudge that feels like the ambergris notes were assembled in rough, big, bold strokes, if that makes sense. This is not something I would personally wear. It's a bit daring for me, especially with that funky note in the beginning, but as with many Ewan McCall creations, I appreciate the cleverness. How often do you see tobacco being used in aquatic perfumes? Ewan did in Firewater from Jorum Studios, and now The Grudge. For a more elegant ambergris perfume, consider Escale and Indonesie from Les Indemodables, or even Sous le Pont Mirabeua from Etat Libre d'Orange for that aquatic salty air vibe. Ambre Supreme from Les Indemodables contains a lot of natural ambergris, but it doesn't go in the aquatic direction. Nor do I even like it, but it's worth checking out. Next is Pyroclasm and was inspired by the natural forces that created the rock formations of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. This is probably the most intriguing perfume in this collection. There's just something about the execution of having this textured aromatic incensey effect that truly evokes warmth and heat that's pretty well sustained from opening to dry down. So Pyroclasm opens with this warm ethereal aroma, maybe with those black pepper and saffron notes. It's slightly astringent and acetone, a little bit balmy, but really, really interesting. It's immediately followed by a mineralic, almost briny, salty, sour, and sweaty smell That certainly enforces a marine aquatic theme to the perfume. I truly wish that that's where it stops because as it dries down, it does start leaning towards that familiar pickle smell. Seeing sandalwood in the base notes does make it suspect. After some time, the briny pickle smell does fall off and you are left with the aromatic opening plus a creamy synthetic sandalwood, which I think is polysanthal. This deep dry down is actually really nice as well. Honestly, despite how captivating this is, I would feel very self-conscious wearing this. As someone who tends to sweat a lot, that sour pickle note would not do me any favors. I still highly recommend checking this out. Third is Cape Wrath. It's inspired by the most northwesternly tip of British land with the same name, which is actually in Scotland. This smells like walking along a lush path of specific greens and flowers, which must be what the landmass in Cape Wrath smells like. I'm just guessing. It's predominantly green, with different types of greenness from opening to dry down. There's a bright, sharp, bitter floral smell that I attribute to galbanum and angelica root. Then there's the bulk of the bitterness and the smell of fresh green stalks and twigs warming up under the sun with just a touch of sap, which, upon research, is probably coming from mastic. There's also a cold, slightly balmy feel that could very well be coming from the oak moss absolute. There's vetiver in the base, but it doesn't seem to be standing out on its own. During one of my tests, I was pretty sure that I detected cashmeran in here, which lends a damp wood effect, but I've never been able to clearly repeat the same experience. That's something to watch out for in case you decide to try this and are sensitive to cashmeran. On paper, the trajectory of the dry down goes towards the sharper, more astringent direction, but on skin, it manages to hover more on the bitter greenness. Cape Wrath would have been full bottle worthy for me, except one, I'm not really interested in getting full bottles at the moment, and two, Jorum Studio has a scent called Paradisi, which, from what I remember, has a significant overlap with Cape Wrath, specifically on the bitter green aspect. My sample dried out, so I'm unsure as to which one I prefer more. If Eau de Gentiane Blanche from Hermes ever becomes completely unavailable, this might be a good one to fill that profile. Finally, the 2025 release Sirenide. This one was inspired by a mythical creature called Selkies, whose origins come from Orkney, a small archipelago north of Scotland. According to the myth, Selkies are shapeshifters who shed their seal skin to switch into a human and back. Definitely hinting at two types of skin here, animal as in leather and human skin. On first sniff, you immediately get that very familiar musky, powdered milk aura that is pretty much in every Your Skin but Better types of perfumes. While those skin scents pretend to be demure, Sirenide is not. This is a strong perfume. What soon stands out is this bitter smell, most likely coming from the bitter almond note. And that bitterness is not kidding around. It is really quite pronounced that it eventually melds into more of a heady amaretto liqueur smell with tiny hints of cherry in there. It takes a good amount of time, but it eventually settles back to that musky, powdered milk smell. But this time, it's at a more modest volume and with just a small hint of amaretto liqueur. Sirenide uses a base note that I've never encountered before. It's called pin seal, and it's supposed to evoke the smell of a very refined leather. While testing this, the suggestion of leather never really came to my mind. If that musky powdered milk smell is amplified at this volume, it could very well be a suede note, and Sirenide would be a drunken suede perfume. I don't know if pin seal is the source of the idea to connect it to the Scottish lore of seals and selkies, or if they took the myth first and decided to use this note. Also, it's possible that Sirenide is a play on the loose shape-shifting connection between selkies and sirens, and with bitter almond famously known to contain something that sounds like the color cyan and rhymes with tide. I hope you'll forgive me if I have been mispronouncing the name incorrectly this entire time, and that it's actually supposed to be Sirenide. I can't really think of a solid comparable perfume to Sirenide as a reference, but the framework itself should be familiar, and it sits at the intersection of liqueur-based perfumes like Dangerous Complicity by Etat Libre or Jorum Studio's very own Spiritcask, and strong skin-type scents like Blanche Bete by Liquid Imaginaires, and yet again, Jorum Studio's Unspoken Gesture. So that was the last one in this Force Majeure collection. BeauFort is probably going to release one more to make it a 5-piece set like the other collections. But overall, this was a lot of fun to explore. The Grudge is basically white ambergris, manually assembled and amplified. Pyroclasm is just super captivating, being a heated aquatic. Cape Wrath is full bottle worthy bitter greenness. And Sirenide is a strong bitter almond scent that is mesmerizing in its own right. I'm now extremely curious what the rest of the collections have to offer. I hope that was helpful in some way, and thank you for watching.